Big up, George. How you doing, mate?
Hey guys, how you guys doing?
Yeah, all smiles after that
Absolutely.
5-0 win today. Assess that performance for me today.
Yeah, it was a great performance. It was assured, I think is the word. I think it was confident. All the things that we weren't last week, which is, I mean, am I allowed to be ecstatically happy and rather disappointed at the same time? In that, if we had done that last week, we'd still be in the FA Cup and still have a be able to to go for a trophy. So it's kind of a little bit bittersweet for me, and just a little bit disappointing, really, that couldn't have been done against Middlesbrough. They've got it in them, and I just I just think that yet again the club is kind of prioritising trying to get top four and get into the Champions League at the expense of the potential for winning trophies, but. I won't dwell on that because obviously tonight was a brilliant performance, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was really glad I was there. I was actually reluctant to go tonight because usually I play five-a-side on a Monday evening, and I'd given that up potentially to go and get another embarrassment. But it was a good night. It was a good evening.
Maybe you should arrange five-a-side for whenever there's a Spurs fixture, and then
Just
not
try
go.
to find any omen possible.
Yeah, any kind of pattern, anything that we can sort of apply. That's what you should do.
I think that's taking superstition a little too far, but
yeah, but how much more do we need at Spurs?
George, how much of a difference do you think BenTANCUR made today, as opposed to Harry Winks?
For me, man of the match.
Really?
I mean, I was watching him quite closely throughout the game, so I kind of missed the qualities of Kulusevski and Doherty during the game, and I was trying to really hone in on what he was doing, how he was doing it, because I just feel that centre midfield is where we are most weak. And his communication, he was constantly focused. I mean, that was one thing that was that stood out for me. Constantly focused, constantly communicating with the players in front of him, around him, pointing, where the space was, and when he was on the ball again, comfortable, nice in the pass, and just getting in the way of Everton. If there was a route for a pass, he was putting himself between the player and the pass. All the things really that I think Harry Winks is guilty of. Just doesn't put himself enough, make his presence known enough in that midfield, and is constantly standing back, and like everybody says, just tries to rely too much on his passing, when sometimes the passing isn't what's required. So to me, as I said, man of the match. I really, really impressed with that performance, and hope he continues it through. Really good.
That's an interesting perspective, because obviously, I mean, I turned around and said, when Sky gave Harry Kane the man of the match, it was sort of like, well, anyone who scores a couple of goals and makes it look good will get man of the match with Sky. But
Kane was brilliant today.
He was brilliant, but I mean, are we ignoring the contribution that BenTANCUR made when we choose? I choose Kulusevski, you choose Doherty as a thing. Are we basically saying, well, unless you do something spectacular, your contribution is not necessarily ignored, but just isn't given as much weight? Because
I think so.
You're right. I mean, I think, George, you're right. BenTANCUR played really well. I didn't see him do anything particularly to sort of detract from his performance at all.
Yeah, I just thought he was, like I said, as following his game, the constant communication, which is something that we've just lacked. Højbjerg doesn't do it. Even, I mean, to a certain degree, Skip doesn't do it. But that constant communication, that calling out, that pointing, that you could see the focus, and you just felt that there was a confidence there in that position with him. Again, it could be another false dawn because Everton were extraordinarily poor tonight. I think that they were really, really devoid of any energy to try and create. And I'm not sure. Richarlison was just so quiet, so isolated. I've never seen him like that before. Usually he's the live wire making the runs and making a real nuisance of himself. But today, he was not at the races. I mean, the whole Everton team weren't.
I think the Romero challenge might have done for him though as well.
Romero let him know he's there early, and that's and maybe he felt that.
Yeah, I mean that could be, but I mean, look, we're talking about a whole team ethic during the game that wasn't up to it. I actually felt a little bit sorry for the Everton fans having sort of travelled down to watch that. I mean, if that was me, I would have just been, totally gutted.
Do you feel they can go down, George?
There's a chance on the basis of that performance. If they don't pull the proverbial socks up, I think there is a chance. Because what I saw tonight was the poorest performance I think I've seen this season from any team.
Is Lampard the man?
You've seen some poor Tottenham.
Yes,
this season.
We've seen some real poor Spurs performances. Yeah, I mean, I think that would top it. Yeah, I mean, it's there's a risk. So it was fantastic to see Dele again, and I was so happy that he got that reception, which was actually quite emotional. So yeah, hats off to all the Spurs fans that did that. I don't think actually. I turned around to a friend of mine that we were watching the game, and I've not seen a reception like that for a former Spurs player since Gaza came back, and funnily enough, was playing for Everton.
Oh, true, yeah, he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think that was the last time that I ever saw a former Spurs player get a reception like that, which was really good.
Wow. A player that I want to talk to you about, Heung-min Son. Sonny today got a goal. But what did you make out of his overall performance today?
Very enthusiastic. I think he squandered a couple of chances. Got a yellow card, which I thought was a little bit silly, a little bit rash. I think he still has a way to go to become the same Sonny of last season, if I'm honest. But he put himself around. He did what he needed to do. But I think there was a one-on-one, I seem to recall, with Pickford, which he really should have been more clinical with.
Yeah.
And I think at the beginning of the game as well, he took a shot which was really tame.
Yeah.
And I think his goal as well. I think it was a goalkeeping error from my recollection. I think Pickford let it go under him from what I saw.
Yes.
But I think, I think he's got a way to find his top form again. But I was happy to see him get on the score sheet, and again, I was glad that he came off as well, because I think partly his performances this season have been just because he's just so overworked. So I was glad he got a little bit of a rest towards the end of that game.
And finally, top four, George. I mean, we've spoken in the past. You told me top four is not on. On the last two league games, a 9-goal swing, 4-0 and 5-0. Are you thinking more positively about fourth, or still a lot of work to do?
I think there's a lot of work to do. I think Conte is getting there now, and we're seeing it. But I still say that it's going to take a little bit of a capitulation. We're seeing it now with... excuse me, we're seeing it with United. We've got to see it with Arsenal as well. So I think the problem is there that we're seeing an Arsenal now which are coming into resurgence, and they've got some really good players there who are riding a crest of a wave, and that's going to be difficult to break down. We have to beat them. There's no two questions about that. There is. We need to beat them at the Tottenham Stadium, and we've got to beat them convincingly. It's got to be a case of we've got to break their hearts a bit, because otherwise I don't think it would be possible at all.
It will depend. It will depend on when the game's actually scheduled for as well, though, won't it?
Yeah, that's the other issue. The scheduling needs to tie in with them potentially getting. I think they've still got to play Liverpool, haven't they?
Next week,
United as well.
They go to Liverpool next week, midweek.
Yeah.
And also United, are they playing them? I think they're playing them at the Emirates, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
and they got to go to Stamford Bridge as well, I believe. Well, I'm not sure if it's at Stamford Bridge or the Emirates, but they got to play Chelsea.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, the performance with United over the weekend would suggest that I think you've got to say that Arsenal would be favourites at the Emirates. Chelsea and Liverpool are going to be a different kettle of fish, and we just got to hope that they lose those. It's difficult, isn't it? Whenever it's Arsenal and Tottenham, you know, it's the history is always they come out on top. So I would still say I think we're a little way away off top four, unfortunately, and I can still see Arsenal just nicking it.
All right, George, always great to chat to you, mate, especially after a win like that. Have a good night, my friend.
Absolutely. Come on, you Spurs.
Thanks, George.
Come on.